G'day everybody, welcome to the show. This week's show's about time. And we got we got Nese. It's about time, Nese.
It's about time that I find the mute button.
Time that you unmuted yourself. Yeah, g'day everybody. Thanks for joining us. This week, like I said, it's all about time. Time. It's about time. So it's about time we got our stuff together and presented good stuff.
Well, in time, we shall find out how well we talked about this time, that time, past time, present time, future time. Is it illusion? Are we solidifying the illusion by following the tick-tock, the talk-tick? Does it ever stop? It's interesting that I've experienced in this 55 years of counting my age that money comes and goes, and it comes and it goes, and it comes and goes. But when that precious moment is gone, it is gone. And until they reveal the ability of time travel, or if we remember the ability of time travel, or if we realize it is real or not, it'll be what it was. It's our choice because change is inevitable. And unfortunately, the powers that should not be in that counting of the change is the counting of the 1, 2, 3, 4 seconds, minutes, hours, days, months, years, decades, eons. So how far do we count forward? How far do we count back? What do you need of me, Luna?
Oh, well, there's a few things. I found some really interesting pictures, and I wanted to add to your little list of time things and say that here and down in Australia, we have what we call Koori time, blackfella time, Murray time, and it kind of throws the conventional time thing out the window. I noticed me mate Donnie's in the chat room. I wouldn't mind him coming at the end of the show and explaining a bit of Koori Murray time, blackfella time to us. So basically what that is, and I'll get into it more later, is that time can be long. 5 minutes can feel like an hour, and an hour can feel like 5 minutes. And it gives us, when that happens to you, we must have some sort of control over it, Nese. If we can make an hour feel like 5 minutes and 5 minutes feel like an hour, we must have something in our energy to make it go faster or slower. Do you know what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying. However, if I may point out a word that you made in that statement, we feel like 5 minutes is an hour, or an hour is like 5 minutes. Unfortunately, when it comes down to it, the powers that should not be, they don't care how we feel. Because when their tick-tock goes talk-tick, they're counting. And it's unfortunate that when we get into the absolute moment, that it stretches out where we don't count, and we don't care to count the seconds. And that's I think a very positive experience to occur, because getting caught up and wrapped up in the illusion of the time, the prison that they've created, is detrimental to our psyche. Because if we are counting the seconds, then we create an anxiousness. And it's unfortunate because of the society system that has been set up before us. It's like, I have to work 9 to 5, 9 to 5. Ding, the alarm wakes us up. Ding, it's breakfast. Ding, we have to get to work. Ding, look at the clock. Look at the clock. Are we there? did we get that paper turned in at time? Did we get everything completed during the day of work like we were told to? Because if we don't get those shekels, we don't get those rubles, we don't get those petrodollars. And so we find ourselves stressed out. And then, beyond that stress, then the day is over. And then we go back home. And I mean, just as we've solidified time this evening, we said, hey, we're going to gather these precious moments at what illusion? The illusion right now. So I appreciate everybody joining us during this illusion. And maybe this illusion will be more beautiful than prestidigitation and nothing but magic.
Thank you. I'll tell you a little story. What happened to me the other day about time. I had to catch a train early in the morning, and that night when I went to sleep, I had a dream that I was late to go where I was going. So when I woke up, I thought, I know, I'll go early, and that should fix that problem. Well, me gets up there thinking I'm smarty. I'll go early and I'll fix this. I get up to the station and the train didn't come to a certain time, and then I had to change trains, and I got there late like my dream said, so it didn't matter what it did. The time was still precise according to my dream.
Right. Well, that is
yeah.
That is one of those incredible experiences where we talk about time and how insignificant it is when we are dreaming. And we are fortunate sometimes when we have those dreams that seem to last an eternity, and we wake up and it's like, wow, only 15 minutes went by, or, seconds, moments go by, and we have these crazy, long, elaborate dreams, but...
Yeah, well, it's the same in what I was explaining before, and I say about 5 minutes being an hour, blah, blah, blah. In dream time, that's what it's like. You go to sleep and you have this big, awesome dream all night, and you wake up and realize that it wasn't as long as what you thought it was.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's a different time thing. Getting into them realms is very tricky. Like, I know these rules, and what you're saying about the powers that should not be, they have to succumb to the time rules as well, if you want to call them that, the time laws, unless they're time lords. Have you ever met a time lord?
I can't confirm or deny that I may or may not have met many different entities in my experience. But the discussion that we were talking about today is that, possibly why there is time, because we do, as silly humans, which I really don't consider myself as one, we have measurement. And that measurement may be a bag of beans, and someone's going to count 1 bean, 2 beans, and then it'll be like 1 bean for you, 1 bean for you, and 1 bean for you. And then there's a process in collecting those beans and planting those beans and harvesting those beans. And that is through a measurement of what some people will call the year. And so as we go through this existence and we think back in time, that there were measurements. The easiest measurement that we can recognize is sunrise and sunset. And so we have sunrise, sunset, and then we have midday or high noon. And noon was when the sun was at its zenith. And then in the opposite aspect of it, we have sunset and sunrise. And then the in-between, we have midnight, not 12 a.m., but midnight. And then to go beyond that in the beautiful of existence, there in the southern hemisphere where you're located, you're in the future. Here in the United States, it's Friday. There in Australia,
it's Saturday.
It's Saturday.
G'day, g'day, it's Saturday. We used to have a
So
show called Saturday. Yeah,
yeah,
so, yeah, the time, but still we're existing in the same moment. So that kind of time's like laid over the actual real moving time. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm
well,
here
yeah,
talking to
we're
you,
all
we're living the same moment, and we wouldn't know any different except when we look at the clock or where the sun is or the moon, because it's
well,
the
yeah,
same.
absolutely. That's where that strangeness of the measurement is, because as I have researched or investigated about my ancestors, the Anishinaabe people, we also have a thing called Indian time or native time, where it is just basically we are conditioned differently to count the seconds. And it's a
Right.
little bit of an understanding that, hey, when we say, hey, I'm going to show up on this day, that means from sunrise to sunset during that day, we may show up. We might be able to solidify it more specifically by saying we'll be there midday, or we'll be there, mid afternoon or mid morning. So basically a day is divided into five: morning, mid morning, midday, mid evening, and sunset. And then we go beyond that, then we have the week. We have a 24-hour day. Well, let's step back a little bit, pun intended. We have a 24-hour day. An hour came from Horus, an Egyptian deity. And according to the Egyptians, Horus, when he walked across the sky, it took him 12 steps during the day. And when he walked across the night, it was 12 steps, 24. And this is when we are at an equinox, equal day, equal night. And that is 12 hours day and 12 hours night. And that was the hour. I have the minute, minute, a small measurement of time. You know, uh, I at the time right now I'm not remembering, how the powers that should not be said, okay, we're going to count seconds, and those seconds are going to equal 60. We can get to 60 because the 60 degrees and how that all is equivalent with our base 10 counting. And that gets in all like mathematics, but I don't know if we have to get into that in a circle. But as we do measure the clock, it is a circle that's been divided into 12. And so then when corporatism occurred, businesses occurred, they needed a measurement to do business. And so, as time progressed and business is done, then we would have individuals would be when the cock crows 3, or we would have bell criers that would ring a bell and say 4 bells and all well, and then you also look deeper back into time with some of the images that you have this evening. They had candles that were rolled with such preciseness that they knew that when this candle would burn down, it would burn down during a certain measurement, was divided into hours.
Yes.
And then they would take a needle and they would stick a needle in the candle at a certain time, and it would drop into a bowl, which would make a little bit of a chime. They also had lamps that were so intricately
Yes.
made. That's a word, right?
Yeah, intricately. You got me tongue tied. Intricate. We're so intricate.
Intricate. Yeah, so intricate. Mush mouth. Maybe it's the cannabis. But but yeah, so these lamps, you would fill it with so much oil, and then the lamp would burn for a certain period of time. So the measurement of this has been going on for a long time. But then when we get back into the natural measurements from the day, we have the moon cycle. And then the moon cycle would be divided by, okay, we have sunrise, sunset, 24-hour day, and so many days would happen between new moon to new moon or full moon to full moon, depending also on the count. And ironically enough, as I've stated for the last 3 years, our lunar calendar date has changed from 28 days to 30 days, which is a show in itself. And
But
so
that's
as
it's
I'm sorry, go
natural for
ahead.
it to change. It's natural for it to change over a period of time. The moon, the
Well,
cycle.
if we look at the greater cycle of occurrences, I do believe it is a natural occurrence of the lunar month to change. And through that change, it is significance because just like we have alarm clocks, when our ancestors looked at the heavens and they plotted out the heavens and they realized that during a certain measurement of the cycle, these planets would align in a certain manner. And when that certain alignment occurred, then it said, pay attention to the moon and watch what the moon does. It may go through an eclipse, and it may go through an eclipse once or twice because of its changing of orbit. And then we're supposed to pay attention or say, hey, what should we be paying attention to? Who knows? You know, but I would say pay attention to the heavens because the answers are there in the stars. And I have my speculations and my assumptions, but we're so busy with the TikTok, having to go to work, counting the minutes, counting the hours, that do we pay attention to the heavens or are we so busy looking at our mobile devices?
That's what it's
Nice one.
like. That's our life. We're on the clock. Tick tock. Tick. Not all of us live like that, but do we know so? Or do we?
Well, I guess we could use the metaphor, the allegory that TikTok is also an example of our heartbeat. Bump, 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 bump. Because
Yeah.
once our heart starts beating, then at some moment that heart will stop beating because the measurement has happened from the
Mm-hmm.
moment that we come through, the moment we come through, the moment we come through the womb, men, respect the womb, men. When we come through into this existence, did the measurement start one day closer to death, the
True.
great reward?
When I was a kid, we all used to go, "Hey, as soon as you're born, you will die," and it was just like a joke thing that we had. And it doesn't actually hit you till you get older when you realise how actually true it is. A question I have is, so we know that as soon as we hit this realm, um, we're bound by the tick tock, or the heartbeat, whatever way you want to put it. What measurement do we use for before and after this realm? Like, we've left the physical clock behind now, our heart's not beating, but our spirit still lives on. We can imagine and speculate, or do you know
My,
kind of time?
my, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, your assumption is.
Well, my assumption is that, like that dream realm,
Hmm.
that there is no time, that all is one. past, present, and future is all one. However, because of the form we're in, that the manipulation of that is different than the existence that we're in at this moment. Because right now we're in a physical shell. My ancestors, the Anishinaabe, they say that we are a spiritual being inside a physical form.
Yep.
And unfortunately, that physical form has a limit to its existence, and it is dependent upon our treatment of the physical form, but it's also a possible victim of circumstances beyond our control. Speaking from experience, where one
Yep.
day I thought everything was fine and dandy as I was rolling down the street, but that 80,000-pound garbage truck had a different story to tell
me. Yeah, them things, like the dream I had, trying not to be late. Some things are just made to be, and it doesn't matter what we do or how much time we don't spend, it's going to happen.
Well, I look back at that experience and I blame it on White Castle. And I don't know if you guys have White Castles down there, but they were like a fast burger joint. And they had little square patties. And I don't eat there. I have not eaten there since I was a little kid, but the nostalgia of it as I was rolling down the street, I stopped at that White Castle and I got me 4 cheeseburgers, a French fry, and a strawberry shake. And I am now able to say fast food will kill you because I ate that fast food and lo and behold, I was ran over by an 80,000-pound garbage truck. Now, was it the White Castles? Who knows? Maybe if I wouldn't have stopped at the White Castle, I would have passed the circumstance of the meeting of me and that garbage truck.
Yeah.
That is, of course, if they were waiting for me. Dun, dun, dun.
Well, that's the other thing, when it's someone else's blue world and their time schedule, and when it bumps up to yours, all sorts of things can happen once them mesh together. So if that person's got bad intention to you and you walk straight into it, yeah. Hey, wouldn't it be nice
if you look at that? Say again?
I was going to say, wouldn't it be nice if they had hand us as a time map when we got here and go, okay, this is your time schedule for this place, and we could, it was all the lessons about how time works and how to avoid this and how to do that. Wouldn't that be nice?
Well, one thing that I find interesting is when I do my rituals and my ceremonies, and I'm about to do my summer solstice fast. And speaking of the solstice, this is another measurement of the cycle. We have a grander cycle beyond a month. We have the year. And the year is allegedly when the earth goes around and completes a circle or an ellipsis around the sun. And that measurement can be made through the seasons. And the seasons are different and opposite the dichotomy of the northern hemisphere and the summer hemisphere. In a cycle of the year, in the northern hemisphere, we're about to come on the summer solstice. And the summer solstice is not the 21st of June only in name. The definition of the solstice is the longest day. The summer solstice in the northern hemisphere is the longest day of the year, and that's in the summer, where we have roughly 16 hours of daylight. And the only way that you can come to that conclusion is making the calculation of sunrise to sunset, and that's the measurement that dictates the summer solstice. My assumption within the first week of June is going to be the summer solstice. And then after the summer solstice, we have the fall equinox, equinox, equator, equal day, equal night. And then we have the winter solstice. And the winter solstice, by definition, is the shortest day of the year, which is close to 8 hours of daylight. And then the sun goes through its incredible journey from the Tropic of Cancer down across the equator to the Tropic of Capricorn, and then back up and back down in its whole wonderful yearly cycle. And this is where we take the measurement of the heavens to say, hey, this is where we're at in the cycle of the year. And if we look at the sun, we can say this is where we're at in the cycle of the moon. And then we can say, hey, the sun's about to set. So this is where I'm at the setting sun. Because when the heavenly sun shines down upon us and illuminates us and chases away the darkness during the setting sun, sunset, Satan. Interesting. Maybe not. But chasing away the darkness is always a good thing because we weren't designed to see in the night. So it's a little scary.
But yeah, I've got to say, and what's in the daylight is still there in the dark.
Right. Thankfully, most of those scary things of the dark are sleeping.
They're nocturnal.
Right.
My mate Donnie, brother Donnie, he was talking a bit about he can't join us unfortunately because he's busy. So I'll just relay some messages. He said that we used a time ceremony fire stick farming, boy to men and girl to women. So what he was using, the time was a natural timing for when we did our ceremonies and stuff like that. It wouldn't be a particular day, a particular time. We would just know that everything would line up. And then when it lined up, we'd all know and we'd go, okay, today's the day. And we'd feel it coming. So we'd have preparation, but you could have that preparation. You could be sitting there for 2 weeks prepping, waiting for the time to be right. Or you could arrive there and the next day, bang, you're on. It just depended. So it was a very natural time rhythm, which we felt more than anything. And we'd use the moon and the sun and the seasons to help us figure it out, because we'd usually do things like that in an abundant time. So we had food to feed everybody.
Well, that's part of that measurement of the cycle of the year, because when we know spring comes, that in order for us to survive the following winter, we need to plant seeds. We need to plant seeds and prepare for the harvest, in order to survive the winter. Fortunately, maybe for us, we're at this point now where we can go hunting in the grocery store. So we no longer have to plant seeds.
That's an adventure, Nese.
Yeah, right.
Hunting in the grocery store. It's changed a lot from the old hunting days. You arm yourself with a bag, some cash, or a plastic card.
Right.
You can have bags or a trolley. It's up to you. And you have to watch out for those crazy trolley people running up the wrong side of the aisle, ready to smash into you, or the talkers that block your pathway and prevent you from hunting your food down.
Yeah, the inconveniences of today's society, right? It's so hard. Life is just so difficult.
One day I'll get dressed up in my hunting gear and actually walk into the shop.
Right. And then go straight. Oh, well, the funny part is those that are like, avid, really good, incredible hunters that walk right to the meat department. And they're like, look at me. Look at me. I was able to hunt down this beef. I was able to hunt down this chicken. I was able to hunt down this flesh because I am the superior hunter. Will that be cash or charge?
Yeah. And then a little while in the future,
And I'm a
as time,
meat eater. I'm a meat eater. So
I know you are.
so I am guilty. But I like to claim that, being crippled in a wheelchair and blind, I have an excuse to go hunting in the supermarket. So, because I'm a horrible shot when it comes to hunting.
Wouldn't that be equivalent to night hunting?
Right. Well,
Um,
my people, we have this joke, what do you call a poor hunter? A vegetarian.
I like that one. So I've got a few things here. I've got some pictures here for the people. Have you heard of the Prague clock, Nese?
The Prague clock?
Prague. Sorry about my accent. Yeah, the Prague clock. It's a big
Right.
clock.
Well, I understand that your English isn't like the Queen's.
Because we have trouble speaking English because we speak Australian and it's a little different.
Right. Well, I think that's kind of on the same lines as the Millennium Clock, where collectively the corporatism of the world is trying to make sure that they can even divide seconds. Well, they already do. They have seconds already divided or quantified. So it's probably all of these grand clocks around the world that they're going to synchronize them to have the ultimate, timekeeping piece. Because remember in the movie Star Trek, or in the series Star Trek, Jean-Luc or Captain Kirk, star date 3045, and they would talk about this time of the future. So they want to have that precise, to the nanosecond time of occurrence. Because then it's like, well, you did not work that nanosecond, and so we are going to penalize you 0.0007 of your penny, shekel, ruby, digital currency, whatever we decide is going to be the official use to purchase things. You will have nothing and like it. Anyway, Charles Schwab.
What was I going to say? I got people sending me pictures. I can't put them on the show because I don't know how to do it like instantaneously. The Prague clock, what they got on there, Nese, because Nese can't see. It's got everything. It's got the like Leo, Aquarius, there's signs all around it. Then it has the normal time, but it's got one set of dials, but there's circles within circles, and like
there's many rings. Yeah, I remember this clock. Yes.
Yeah, and it's got colours on it, and it shows you where the sun and the moon goes in association to everything else. It's a brilliant piece of work, I tell you. Whoever thought about it, they layered it up. They layered everything on this clock.
Well, if you looked at the Mayans,
pardon?
Sorry, if you look at the Mayans and their calendar system, it was similar to that, where it was like a plate in a sense, or a circle, and it had rings, and each ring was a different type of measurement, where it would measure on the grand scale of, like you said, the astrology, the what is it? Anthropomorphic?
Using big words.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So it's got a variety of stuff that it reads.
Well, they created these creatures in the heavens, and it's called our astrological signs, and they have a significance with the moon cycles and the yearly cycle, and the same with the Mayans. They had this same thing, and when we break down like the days of the week. If we break down the names of the months and we find them through history of where these different people would be, what do we call this moon? An example, like right now we're on the precipice of June, from Juno, which was, it was the third month of the beginning of the year, because in the beginning or in past, the spring equinox in the northern hemisphere was the beginning of the year count. And then 3 moon cycles after that would come the summer solstice. So then we have the third moon, which would be 3. I can't remember what that is in the verbiage of it. But June for my people is called Ode Iminigisis, which means the strawberry picking moon. So the minute at the zenith of the sun, or the zenith of the moon in its cycle, after that passing of the full moon, then you start watching the strawberries and they're going to be ready for picking. And then we have other names for the 13 moon cycles of a year. But then after June, we have July. July, another Roman emperor with his ego said, no, I don't want to call it Sextember anymore. I want to call it, and then we have August, Augustus, and then we have September, Sep meaning 7, ember, the 7th ember of the year. And we have October, Oc being 8, the 8th ember of the year. And then we have November, Nova, 9. And then we have December, Dec, 12. And then we have January, again, where it was changed from a Roman emperor. And then we have February being the 13th ember. And then we come back to March with the spring equinox being the first ember of the year. But then through his story, they changed it to their story.
Yeah.
And then we got this breakdown of the. It's really funny because like right now we're in this Gregorian calendar. And before the Gregorian calendar was the Julian calendar. And we look back in history where this Roman emperor all of a sudden said, hey, this is the way it's going to be. Alexander the Great, in his power, he said, look, we are going to have 365 days a year. You guys figure out how you're going to call it by months and everything, but that's what I declare.
What's it called? Adam's calendar, which is not a calendar like what we used to. It's actually a pattern of bricks, not brick stones.
Oh yes, in Africa, a great dive. A great dive into interesting of how in our past how entities would denote these cycles, and this goes back to like the most primitive calendar calculation is the penis of Osiris. Interesting that we're gonna.
Yeah, I got that. All right, you want to talk about that? I was trying to avoid it. I do have pickies of these things, so here we go.
And the obelisk. The obelisk, that is the representation of the story of Osiris.
Yeah.
And how his sister bride, and go back into Egyptian deities, and how Osiris was killed, and chopped up into pieces, and the piece that Isis couldn't found was his penis, and so she made the golden phallic. And then if you look at the biggest penis in Washington disease, isn't Joe Biden right now, but it's the Washington Monument.
Yeah, I know. I had a funny thought, Nese, that story told us about how she put him back together and lost his old fella. I'm thinking about putting that story in today. His old fella, I can't find it. And they go, don't worry, he can be a girl now. They wouldn't even think of going to find one and make another one. They just would have went, it's okay, we'll just call you ma'am.
Well, I believe the story was that it was thrown in the Nile and a crocodile ate it.
They did. That's the worst luck, eh? Is that worse luck? So may I ask what this has to do with time?
Well, if we look at the phallic symbol of a stick stuck in the center of a circle, and we look at Washington disease, and we look at the plan of all of its roads, and you find how it was purposely designed. There's a great documentary called Riddles in Stones. And during certain times of the year, when the shadow of the obelisk falls upon certain buildings, it is certain time for certain rituals, ceremonies.
Yep. I'm looking at the Washington Monument, is it?
Right.
Yeah. And how come it looks like Cleopatra's needle? But it's new, or is it old? How old is it? Do you know?
The Washington Monument?
Yeah. Is that the?
I don't remember off the top of my head when it was built.
There's so many of them around the world.
Oh, absolutely. But the one thing that's really interesting about the Washington Monument is that it's 555 feet above ground, and its base is 111 feet for a total combined height of 666. Interesting.
I was waiting for that number. I'm thinking those numbers don't seem like the right numbers. And then when you said he add up to that, I thought, yeah, they're the numbers.
And then if you even go further about the obelisk, there's 3 capitals in the world. One is Washington, D.C., the other one is London, and the third is the Vatican. And if you look at these 3 places, you'll find out that there's 3 matching obelisks that were taken from the same ritual spot of Egypt and transplanted and pun intended, erected in these locations. And if you look at the Basilica, the Vatican, and you look at St. Peter's Square, you'll see that within the square is a circle, and right in the center of the circle is an obelisk.
It is.
And this is just like a sundial, where the sun hits the dial, and the dial will go around and denote a measurement of the day, which was broke down into the numbers of steps of Horus. And interesting enough, if you think about a clock usually is a square with a circle inside it. And if you look at the etymology and the iconography or the symbolism of a circle, that usually refers to a woman. And then if you look at a square, that usually denotes a man. And so we have a circle inside a square. So is that the square trapping the circle?
Yeah, it seems like it.
Where
I was just
if
going to
you
add,
look, oh, go ahead.
in our paintings, in our traditional paintings, Nese, sometimes we'll paint something and we have to either put a circle around it or we have to enclose it somehow, because the painting, what they've painted is so powerful, it can't just be let loose. So someone will come along and say, you need to paint something around that, to like the square around the circle. That's funny you mentioned that. We're looking at Big Ben at the moment, and it's a clock round with square, and it's on a tower which looks like an obelisk.
Right? Yeah. Again, the penis silly man tricks are for kids. But that's that whole thing. Are they performing magic? Are they performing prestidigitation? Or are they performing the full spectrum of magic and prestidigitation? Sleight of hand,
Yes,
distraction. So
yeah.
as they distract us, are they performing their magic in the background? And that's the other thing that's so significant about these measurements of time, because the powers that should not be, if we break it down as I talk about my Holy Trinity, positive, neutral, and negative. So we get conditioned that it's light out, it's the day, so it's positive. When it's dark, it's night, it's black, it's negative. But then also during the darkness, where where negativity is easily hidden. So during that nighttime and the cycle of the moon, when we have the new moon, which we're about to come upon on the 30th of June, a new moon, the powers that should not be, they do these dastardly rituals, ceremonies, where sometimes they're planning their horrific ceremonies and rituals of greater negativity. So when it's the full moon, and what is the full moon allegedly? The reflection of the heavenly sun, the heavenly light. And so during the full moon, the powers that should not be are out there doing their rituals and ceremonies and mocking of the full moon by saying, look what we're doing in your disrespect, in your reflection of the heavenly light, of the heavenly sun. We shun our noses against you. We perform their blasphemy. They're heretics.
Yeah.
And that's why I like to call them the powers that should not be. And these are the entities that are creating negativity.
Whoever they are.
And even though
I found something interesting they say about things that they keep from us. I mentioned it earlier today. It's called Chronicles from the Future, a true story kept hidden by the Masons, now revealed. And it goes to tell you that, I'll read it out, a bit out for you. Chronicles from the Future tells a remarkable story about a bizarre and incredible event experienced by Paul Amadeus Danic, excuse the pronunciation, the author of who lived during the beginning of the previous century in Central Europe. Danish claims that during one of his comatose states, brought about by a serious illness, his consciousness travelled to the future in a different body. And he stayed, I'm trying to do two things once here. They stayed for the entire duration of his coma. Although this sounds impossible and indeed fanciful, Danak's written account was taken very seriously by the Freemasons, who kept his book as a closely guarded secret till now. And then it goes to say this fella documented everything he had, and then that fella got really, really sick, and it took a while for the book actually to surface again. And apparently it has, and you can find it on Ancient Origins. So if anyone's interested in going to have a look at that, you'll find it on Ancient Origins. It says that when he, I can't find the part, when he went to the future, he occupied someone else's body, and that person had a name. And the people, oh, here it is. Okay, sorry for the bad thing here, because I didn't have it. All right. According to Danich, individual, yeah, here we are. All right. What was the experience? When Danich awoke from his coma, he recorded in his diary that he had been awake and aware the entire time, but not in the year nor the place in which his body lay. Danich reported that his consciousness travelled into the body of another man, Andrew Northman, in the year through 3906 AD. According to Danich, individuals in the year 3906 AD realised that a different consciousness had entered the body of Andrew Northman. And so they showed him and explained to him everything about that era, as well as exactly what had occurred from the 21st century up until their present year, showing the path that humanity had followed. Danich reported that the new species of humans being named Homo occidentalis, is that accidental? It sounds so much like Homo accidental, like someone made a mistake.
Sorry, I didn't know I was gay.
So Homo accidentalis, novus at the end, and I heard that mentioned in the chat room earlier, will follow today's Homo sapiens. And in his memories, he traces the steps, both good and bad, that will take place over the millennium. Danich never mentioned his account to anyone at the time for fear of being thought crazy and exposing himself to ridicule, both in his career and his personal life. So there you go, Nese. And that, like I said, you can get that book on, what did I say? Ancient Origins. I'm going to hunt it down. It'll be very interesting. So,
well, then we get into the feasibility, the possibility of time travel.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm so excited about the idea of time travel. Unfortunately, I lean more towards that it is not possible unless there is some type of marker we can go to. For an example, there's that TV series and movie called Stargate, where they find these things, circles, to where once they're activated, you can walk through the circle and find yourself not only in a different time, but in a different location. Because if you think about it, if at this exact moment, if we were to blimp out of the existence right now and wanting to go into the future, we would have to calculate where the Earth is going to be within that position of the future as it goes through its cycle around the sun, which is not an easy task, because if you look at the electromagnetivity of all the other celestial bodies, there is an impact on the other celestial bodies where it could nudge it a little bit that way or a little bit this way. And if that calculation is not absolutely precise, going back to these clocks of absolute precise measurement, then we would blimp into empty space.
Yeah, you need a marker. Yes, I agree.
And the same would be the same going back in time without being able to, because allegedly what we're taught is that, you know, our solar system is like this pancake or like an egg where we kind of have this this flat spinning around, which I disagree with. I think it's like a big, huge sphere. Each solar system is more like a sphere in itself, right? But then each solar system is circling around other solar systems, which is a big makeup of the galaxy, which is allegedly a huge spiral. And supposedly the Milky Way solar system, the Milky Way galaxy, is on one of the arms of this great spiral. Oh. And are we spiraling inward or spiraling outward? The speculation is, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we're not, yeah. If we're giants, we could have a better view.
Right. And I don't have the need to know.
No. Yeah, that's true. When you ask questions, you got to be careful, because you might not want to know the answer when you finally get it. So be careful. Looking for a spinny pattern.
But then if we are to say, for lack of argument, yes, there is time travel, then because of the potential of disruption, there would be logically a police or a control. And yes. According to the Taurus, according to the Taurus and Doctor Who, there are the Time Lords.
The Time Lords, yeah. Yeah, the Time Lords. There's not many of them, but they're out there. And we learned, yeah, that's another subject, man. I love Doctor Who. I grew up on Doctor Who. I've seen from the original Doctor Who's all the way up to the ones they got now. And Rotman informs me that the new Doctor Who is a gay black guy, and Rose is coming back, and she's black. That's good.
Is he born that way, or is he one of those homo accidental?
Oh, because he regenerates, eh? He regenerates.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, how he regenerates. He doesn't know what body he's going to have. It's like when if you believe in reincarnation and your time's up and you come back, start another cycle around the clock. It's like that. You don't know quite what body you get. You're going to be a man or a woman, what colour you're going to be. It's all suits. It's all done for you to suit your particular needs and stuff. And then bang, you're here and you look at yourself in the mirror and you look at your hands and go, oh, wow, that's the new me. I imagine Doctor Who feels very much the same. Except
this is kind of like the Dalai Lama. They claim that the Dalai Lama is the reincarnation of the past.
Yeah.
And this is like Buddha and the reincarnation, the reincarnation of remembering, which would be fantastic if you could, if reincarnation is true. And I don't know. I have my speculation, my opinion, my beliefs, my thoughts, my feelings of it. But when it comes down to it, I just don't know. But there's times where, through the experiences I've had, through the dreams that I've had, or the visions, or the latest Budwurst download, I have felt like, hey, this is seemingly like a past life. Mm-hmm. And so reincarnation, bring it on, because I don't think I would leave this planet until I could get everybody safely off it.
Yeah. So if you want to come back, I'd think twice about that. You just reminded me. I had a little dream about my nephew. It was a future, a snippet. I got a snippet of the future. I saw him with grey hair, and he had 2 grandchildren. And at first, I'm looking at him, and I was aware of my presence there, but I don't think I had a body. And if I did, I don't know. It felt weird. It was like I was floating, but I was in the kitchen looking into the lounge room, so I don't know whether he saw me or whether I was actually there. But he had grandchildren, and I'm thinking, who is that person? And then I realised, oh, that's my nephew, years in the future. So I told his parents. They were happy because confirmed with him that he's still going to be alive and he'll be okay. But it's not often they pick me up and throw me into the future and go, look at that. I don't even know why they did it. Maybe it's for him, I don't know. But it was nice to do. I want to go back to the past, but Nese, I was wondering whether when we pass away and come back, we actually got a time choice. So do you want to come back in the 1800s, the 1600s, 2021? When do you want to come back? I hope we have a choice there. That I'm not sure about.
Well, the convenience of going shopping or hunting in a supermarket is definitely more beneficial for me in this existence, because life back, even as they say that time was simpler back then, it was arduous and back-breaking
Still hard
at times. And I really don't, as I look back at prairie life, from what we were taught here in America, I wouldn't want that on any woman. Because what they put women through back in prairie life, no wonder why so many women would leave their husbands and take the bareback riding Native American with his bare chest and long hair flowing behind him, as she's sitting there churning butter for 6 hours saying, "Get me the hell out of here." And she looks across the prairie and sees this Native American in his buckskin and like, "I think I'm leaving."
Yeah, I don't have
See
to
you,
make
Jebediah.
We kind of got the same thing because we had to walk around the supermarket. You just walk over there and there's one for you. Walk over there, there's another one. You want this? Just go over there. There was no churning butter.
Right. Well, also in the past, according to the teachings of my ancestors and my elders, that food was abundant everywhere. You could find what you needed to eat everywhere.
A walking supermarket.
Yeah. Everywhere you went was basically a supermarket. And look at what we did to America. And that's the only experience that I can share, is what I know as America. We made all of these huge farms. We clear-cutted all of these forests because we needed to, or the powers that should not be, needed to shut down all the natural supermarkets. Because if all the natural supermarkets are no longer there, then where do we have to go spend our money? And how do we get our money? Working 9 to 5. What a way to make a living. Tick-tock goes the clock. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same result. Working 9 to 5, 40 hours a week. Is that the definition of insanity?
Yes, doing the same thing over and over and over again, thinking you're going to be happy. How do they figure that one out? But you're selling you're selling your hours, but you're actually selling every second that you breathe. And they say I'll hire you for so much an hour. But the truth is, hang on, are you really? We'll go down to the microsecond when you take a breath, that you're hiring me for every breath I take.
Exactly.
And not only that, most jobs today, they say, require you to look into the future, into time that has not come yet, and write estimations of your work or whatever, So they're expecting us to be able to glimpse the future just by our everyday 9 to 5 TikTok work.
Well, and what's more belittling than when you have your boss who's making, $70,000 a year, and here you're coming into this new position where they're going to diminish your worth and say, hey, your time, your hour is only worth minimum wage in America. They're pushing $15 an hour. And if you look at the whole cycle of trying to live throughout the year, you need so much of those hours. And even in our music, it just diminishes us. Everybody's working for the weekend, because it's
You know,
like, I need some breathing. I need to release. Oh, it's a
we
system.
never had our mob here, traditional people. They never had days of the week, so we didn't have weekends. And then there's some people in the world. So I think you'd call them the powers that would not be, should not be. They don't have weekends either. We're the ones that have it. We're the ones with the whip cracked.
Yeah,
But yeah,
the banks don't ever shut down around the world.
Mm.
There's constantly somebody counting, whether it's shekels, rubies, diamonds, gold, silver. They're counting it. And this is the beauty about the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere, and about you being tomorrow. Because, well, yeah, it just doesn't stop. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching.
Where's my thing? Hang on. The Chronovisor. You heard of that, haven't you, Nese?
The Chronovisor?
Yep.
Well, only when the captain used to bring it up.
Right, okay. So I've got an article here. I haven't really read it yet. Because I'm freezing. If you haven't noticed, I'm freezing here. I've got a blanket and everything on because winter's coming and it's hit me and I'm freezing. All right. From the 1960s until the 1990s, Father Pellegrino Erinetti claimed that he helped create a time machine called the Chronovisor, which he used to observe the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. From the unsolved disappearance of Emanuela Orlandi in 1883 to a covert collection of documents known as the Apostolic Archive, the Vatican's history is full of secrets, and of all the Vatican's purported secrets, none may be more bizarre than the legend of the Chronovisor. True, because I don't know if it's real, Nese. What do you think? I'll tell you a bit more about it. The Chronovisor is said to be a device that gives the user the ability to see through time. Though the existence of the Chronovisor has never been proven, a 2002 book by Vatican priest Father Francio Brune said otherwise. According to Brune, the Chronovisor was developed by Father Ernetti, a Benedictine monk. Ernetti allegedly kept the device secret until the early 1960s, when he confided in Bruno and told him that 12 scientists, including famed physicist Enrico Fermi, and former Nazi scientist Werner von Braun, helped him to build it. Interesting. Made of cathode rays, antenna, and metals that receive sound and light signals on all wavelengths, the Chronovisor purportedly allowed the team of scientists to document events in the past, including the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. The machine therefore could validate the teachings of the Bible simply by providing a first-hand look into the past. There you go. What do you think of that, Nancy?
I was told that the Anishinaabe people, because of their genetic composition, that they are connected to our ancestors. And through ritual ceremony, that we can transverse space and time in the realm of dreams or in the realm of meditation. And we can go back in time to our ancestors and look through their eyes. And sometimes we can be there and see, what's occurring. depending on the ritual, depending on the ceremony, and so physically, again, I go back to my speculation that that's only possible if there's some kind of marker of where we can go back. But then also, if we look at the so-called timeline, by you going into the past, just by you expelling your breath, you're causing a change in the past. Just by you excreting your electromagnetic energy field, you're causing a change of the past. Thus, by logic, changing the timeline.
Yeah.
And so is this possible when they talk about parallel universes?
I was just about to ask you that, so do you think it's true?
Or other dimensions? Because if we look up at the stars and the trillions of stars that are out there, could not those stars be almost the same as our solar system and be that slight change of what's going on right now? And so the parallel universes or the other dimensions are actually other solar systems that went through their timeline. And at some point, our timeline and that timeline match. And maybe that's that deja vu moment when all of the dimensions of universe kind of coalesce or cross. Who knows?
So we just passed the hour today, Nese, and I believe that you have something happening after the show. So did you want to let anybody in if they got questions?
Yeah, I apologize. My younger brother is going to be visiting me and supposedly bringing me a bison burger.
Oh, lucky you.
Right. So I'm sorry. Pity and forgive me that I allow my primitive hunting skills to overcast being here. But let's absolutely. Let's invite anybody else in if they wish, and we can just go until someone shows up. If your call, this is your thing, ma'am.
Yeah, we just thought it was a shared thing. We're just doing it for everybody else, something interesting for them to listen and watch. So, okay, what else have we got here? I'll look at my little
Well, let's give a shout out.
Oh.
Let's give some potential love and positivity so someone can create some dopamine out there in the universe.
So from the beginning, we're going back. So we got Connie, Jules, Donnie, and Polly, and we had I'm terrible at this. You can't do it. Alleviate.
Bernays was there.
We had Buzz, yeah. We got Brotman. Yeah, Buzzacino's in there. I always love Buzz.
Joe was there.
Joe, yeah. Bernays, Jocelyn. If anyone I missed you, I'm really, really sorry if I have. I'm still getting used to doing all this multitasking.
Oh, and that
Carl was in there earlier.
That vertically challenged individual, Luna.
Yeah,
is there too.
Yeah, she's in there. That crazy woman. It must have
still taller than me.
Not until I sit down. Okay. Oh yeah. So we'll go back. Zulu time, they say. I never heard of Zulu time until we discussed it, and you informed me about it.
Oh, this gets into the whole touchy subject, possibly, of the Earth and its shape. Because when they navigated the Earth, that they needed some type of measurement in order to navigate. And so they declared declared the Prime Meridian, which is 0 longitude.
Right.
Running north to south. And from that point is where they started counting the allegedly 360 degrees around the Earth. And so as you go towards the North Pole and the South Pole, from the equator, there is a count in itself. And so from that 0 point, they said, okay, this is going to be Zulu time. So around the world, the corporatism, the commercial world, the almighty banksters, they can count their seconds and come to agreement that by, hey, at 1200 Zulu, we're all going to increase the cost of widgets by 35%.
Okay. And would they use that, like in Plan and the Big Plan? Would they use Zulu time in that?
Well, they also use it in the military.
Oh, right, right. Yes.
In the military, well, because in the defense or offense, the offensive of the military, that in order for ready works, ops, missions for them to occur, they have to say it's going to happen at, 700 hours or, 1600 hours,
Yeah.
4 o'clock.
Because I always wondered how they synchronised their watch if everyone was from different places, but Zulu time explains that. They've all got Zulu time, they all synchronise their watch, and then they're all on time. I used to watch movies and go, how do they know? What happens if you're over here and then you're on the walkie-talkie and you're somewhere else synchronising your watch? Like Zulu time. And why did they call it Zulu time? Is that the time in Zulu time?
That I don't remember of why it was called Zulu. I'm going to make a speculation. If you look at the Zulu tribe, that there's a significance to the Zulu tribe.
Yeah.
And that's a good question to ask. And I apologize for not having the answer.
Has that got anything to do with Adam's calendar? Which was found in
Ooh, would that not be interesting?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Because I wonder because I can't remember where the Zulu tribe was from in Africa. So I'm thinking it's going to have something to do with that. But unfortunately, my visitor just showed up.
That's okay, Nese. And
did we get anybody that wanted to jump on though?
No, we didn't, love. That's okay. We can do that next week.
Okay.
I'm just grateful that everyone dropped in to listen to what we had to say. And yeah, so we'll go out on TikTok.
Well, if I may, as I stated in the beginning, to bring it back again, money comes and goes, entities come and go, but once a precious moment is gone, you can't get it back. So please live your life to its ultimate measure of your measurements, and don't get so caught up in that TikTok. It's good to be on time, but don't lose your mind being at that moment, because every moment is precious. And I appreciate you and love you so dearly. And thank you for these precious moments. And with the audience listening, thank you for taking your precious moments to be here with us. And sooner than later, we'll be here again at this precious moment.
I'm sure will. And I want to thank you, Nese. Thank you, everyone. Love to you on this day. Stay happy. Spend your time wisely. And Yellow, we'll see you next week.
Toodles.